Welcome back to Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. Today we're talking with Harlow Russell from the group Property Guru Group and the website rumah.com. Before we took a break, we said, how's the Indonesian property market?
Yes.
How is it?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. It is growing, and there's a couple of drivers of that. You know, if you look at the middle class, the so-called middle class of Indonesia, from 2003 to 2010, it grew by about 60%.
Right.
And if you think about what are people's basic needs, well, food, companionship, and shelter. So that shelter component is very powerful for literally every single person.
Sure.
So that is a driver, and as people have more disposable income, the first thing, if they're renting, they want to buy their first house.
Sure.
If they have a small house, they want to buy
house.
a larger house. If they have a large house, then they want to buy 2 houses. And if they have many houses, then they start looking overseas. So it's a natural drive, literally, of just about every single person. And when you multiply that by the growth rate of Indonesia and basically what's happening here, it's a natural that property everywhere would be growing, and it's a great time for property developers.
Well, one of the things, speaking of property developers, one of the things that happens in Asia, and has happened in every big market in Asia, is that things boom, you get a bubble, and it crashes.
Yes.
Where are we at in that cycle?
I would say that we're nowhere near a bubble. Why? I get asked that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's growing and it's a bubble. The fundamental economy of Indonesia is growing, and because of natural resources plus domestic consumption, we got a long way to go before there's a downturn. I mean, barring some global event. The Indonesian economy looks to continue to grow, and because Indonesia is so big,
Right.
the demand, the pent-up demand of the average middle-class Indonesian is sustainable for quite some years.
Now, since our viewership is mostly in Jakarta,
Yes.
what's the inventory like in Jakarta these days of condominiums, apartments, and houses?
Well, that's a very good point, because traditionally property meant a home, a landed property.
Sure.
What's happened in Jakarta, very specifically, rather unique from the rest of the country, is the buildup of condos and apartments. What you see is that Indonesian developers know that and are building.
Right.
So that's why you're seeing more and more towers going up literally throughout Jakarta. So the inventory is growing, but it's still not enough. Houses, basically, the only place where there's growth in landed houses is the suburbs, from Lippo Karawaci to Bayeste, et cetera.
Sure.
The only growth is really where there's land, which is the suburbs. However, inner city, towers are going up everywhere.
Yeah, and when like Ciputra World or Kemang Village or any of these big things that are going up, are the developers having a hard time selling those units?
Not at all. In fact, if you go to any of these typically road shows or weekends, they're packed, they're full, and they're moving fast. So as I said, it's a great time to be a property developer. There is limitless demand right now.
Limitless demand?
Right now, yes.
Wow.
And in fact, I have friends who go to these things and trying to buy, and literally they can't buy because they're sold out.
Well, I've actually been to a couple of these things, and you have to sign up ahead of time to get your number, and people are like, it's like a scrum to get the high number,
it's
because
a fight.
You think, oh my gosh, if I didn't get the high enough number, I'm not going to get the floor I want. It's like supermarket sweepstakes in some of these things. I don't know where all that money is coming from, but
also,
there it is.
Interest rates have come down here, relatively speaking. So people can gain access to money easier. The banks are being more competitive. So it's all about money. If the banks have money to give and want to have lower interest rates, there'll be more consumers that want to buy.
No, there's Indonesians with money are also shopping abroad for properties, and traditionally, if you've got lots of money, you go to Singapore and buy up as much of it as you can.
Yes.
But is a lot of Indonesian money moving to other markets, and what are the markets where the Indonesians want to go?
Well, you mentioned Singapore, which is the traditional easiest market for Indonesians who are ready to invest. And last year, Indonesians were the 3rd largest foreign group buying in Singapore behind the Chinese and Malaysians.
Of course.
Now, what's next happening, because Singapore is tightening up its laws and just tightened up laws 2 months ago to really stop this, they added a lot of taxes, is more and more Indonesians are looking to Australia, the United States, and London. These are the other prime targets for Indonesian investors.
Yeah, and you start to see the advertisements here in the newspapers and on websites from property developers in the United States, in London, et cetera, et cetera. I've seen them in other markets. You never used to see them here, but you're starting to see them here.
And we're starting to see more and more foreign developers who want to use Rumah.com to get at that market as well.
And are there very many, the last question for this segment, are there very many overseas Indonesians coming back and buying property here?
I wouldn't say, well, Indonesians coming back to buy in Indonesia.
Yeah.
It's a significant sector, but that's not where the focus is for property developers.
It's really here.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking of the Philippines, where overseas Filipinos buy enormous amounts of property.
Not as much here as in the Philippines.
Yeah. When we come back, I want to talk about the mechanics of how to buy property in Indonesia and what to look out for, and also what sort of status foreigners have in buying property before you go out there and try and get that house. You're watching Inside Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. Stay with us.